everybody, and welcome to the second week of February in Storytime with Miss Morgan here at the Tennessee State Museum. You guys, I am so excited. I have something really cool to tell you about today. But before we get started, let's check our schedule. Let's go sing our song. Come on. Are you guys ready to sing our good morning song? So before we get started, let's practice and warm up those talking hands. So remember, our signs are happy and good morning. So let's practice one more time. So happy, take your hands like you're fanning yourself, say happy. And good morning, take the fingers to your chin and say good morning. Great job, you guys are doing such a wonderful job. Good job. All right, so remember, we're gonna sing it twice. So you ready? Good morning to you, and how do you do? I'm happy to see you. Good morning to you. Oh, great job. Ready again? Say, good morning to you. And how do you do? I'm happy to see you. Good morning to you. Oh, great job. Good. Are you guys ready? It's now time for story time. Let's go. Great job, you guys. Pat on the back. You guys are doing wonderful. So you might be thinking, Miss Morgan, where is your book to read? So do you remember how last week Miss Bridget read our story and we talked about how it's Black History Month, so we're going to be talking about some really cool Black Americans and some really cool things this month. So tomorrow is the International Day of Women and Girls in Science, which is pretty awesome. But here's the thing, I'm not a scientist, I'm a historian. And so I was like, what can I do? Who can I think of? And you know what, Miss Bridget, she actually knows a really cool scientist. So let me check it out for you. I want to make sure I get it wrong. Her name is Dr. Brianna Brown. She has a PhD in molecular pharmacology and physiology at Brown University, or from Brown University, I should say. She is the assistant professor of the Department of Biochemistry at Vanderbilt University. Wow, that is a cool title. So what that means, you guys, is that her PhD is in the study of how medicines affect our bodies and things like that. So that's really, really cool. And being a professor, that means that she gets to teach other people on how to do things like that, which is, I just think, the coolest thing. So here's the thing. She is actually going to be reading our story from her office. And so I'm going to pass it off to her. So if you guys are ready, let's go.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Brianna Brown, and I'm an assistant professor of biochemistry at Vanderbilt University. And today I'm going to be reading Ada Twist, Scientist by Andrea Beatty. Ada Marie, said not a word till the day she turned 3. She bounced in her crib and looked all around, observing the world, but not making a sound. She learned how to climb and made her big break, with a trail of chaos left in her wake. She ran through the day, chasing each sound in sight, and didn't slow down till she conked out at night. Her parents were frazzled, but tried not to freak, as Ada grew bigger and still did not speak. Clearly, young Ada, with lots in her head, would have something to say when it ought to be said. That's just what happened when Ada turned 3. She tore through the house on a fact-finding spree and climbed up the clock just as high as she could. Her parents yelled, "Stop!" as all good parents would. Ada's chin quivered, but she did not cry. She took a deep breath and she simply asked, "Why?" Why does it tick and why does it talk? Why don't we call it a granddaughter clock? Why are there pointy things stuck to a rose? Why are there hairs up inside of your nose? She started with why, and then with what, how, and when. By bedtime, she came back to why once again. She drifted to sleep as her dazed parents smiled at the curious thoughts of their curious child, who wanted to know what the world was all about. They kissed her and whispered, "You'll figure it out." Her parents kept up with their high-flying kid, whose questions and chaos both grew as she did. Even Miss Greer found her hands were quite full when young Ada's chaos wreaked havoc at school. But this much was clear about Miss Ada Twist. She had all the traits of a great scientist. Ada was busy that first day of spring, testing the sounds that make mockingbirds sing, when a horrible stench whacked her right in the nose, a pungent aroma that curled up her toes. Zowie, said Ada, which got her to thinking, what is the source of that terrible stinking? How does a nose know there's something to smell? And does it still stink if there's no nose to tell? She rattled off questions and tapped on her chin. She'd start at the start where she ought to begin. A mystery, a riddle, a puzzle, a quest. This was the moment that Ada loved best. Ada did research to learn all she could of smelling and smells, both the stinky and good. One hypothesis Ada thought could be true. The terrible stink came from Dad's cabbage stew. She tested and tested, but soon Ada knew it was time to come up with hypothesis 2. Then zowie, the stink struck again, just like that. Hypothesis 2, it's caused by the cat. The cat couldn't make such a stink on its own. It needed perfume and some fancy cologne. So young Ada tested. The test was a flop. She started again, but her parents yelled, stop. Ada Marie, to the thinking chair now. By the time we count to 3. Enough, said her mother. That's it, said her dad. Her parents were frustrated, frazzled, and mad. Why? Ada questioned. Her mother said no. What? Ada queried. Her father said go. You've ruined our supper. You've made the cat stink. Enough with your questions. Now sit there and think. She looked at her parents. Her heart turned to goo. Poor Ada Twist didn't know what to do. She sat all alone by herself in the hall, and Ada, once more, could say nothing at all. And so Ada sat, and she sat, and she sat, and she thought about science and stew and the cat, and how her experiments made such a big mess. Does it have to be so? Is that part of success? Are messes a problem? And while she was thinking, what was the source of that terrible stinking? Ada Marie did what scientists do. She asked a small question, and then she asked 2. And each of those led her to 3 questions more, and some of those questions resulted in 4. As Ada got thinking, she really dug in. She scribbled her questions and tapped on her chin. She started at why, and then what, how, and when. At the end of the hall, she reached why once again. Her parents calmed down, and they came back to talk. They looked at the hallway and just had to gawk. No patch of bare paint could be seen on the wall. The thinking chair was now the great thinking hall. They watched their young daughter and sighed as they did. What would they do with this curious kid who wanted to know what the world was about? They smiled and whispered, we'll figure it out. And that's what they did, because that's what you do when your kid has a passion and a heart that is true. They remade their world. Now they're all in the act of helping young Ada sort fiction from fact. She asked lots of questions. How could she resist? It's all in the heart of a young scientist. And as for that smell, what can Ada Twist do? But learn all she can with her friends in grade 2. Will they discover the stink that curls toes? Well, that is the question. And someday, who knows? So I think women and girls should participate in science because there's still a lot of questions that we have to address as a world and still a lot of problems that we need to solve. And that's going to take everyone. That's going to take the best and the brightest minds. And that has nothing to do with age, with race, with gender. It has to do with the desire to help others and a persistence to figure out the tough questions.
You guys, welcome back to the Tennessee State Museum. Wasn't that an awesome story? But before we move on to our next step, I would like us all to give a huge round of applause to Dr. Brown. Good job. Wasn't she wonderful? She did such a great job. So let's check our schedule. All right, we've read our story. So it's now time for our activity. So do you remember Miss Ada Twist in our story? She really liked to do experiments, and I think that's really cool. Science experiments are super fun for everyone, and you can do science experiments with pretty much anything, especially things you have around your house. So today, what we're gonna be doing is making a rainbow in a bowl. So you'll need a bowl, some milk, some dishwashing soap, food coloring, and two, I call these Q-tips, but you might call them cotton swabs. So what we're gonna do is make sure you ask your adult if you need some help with these things. Make sure it's okay that you take the milk. Make sure you leave some for your friends and family. I know it's always kind of sad when I go to get some milk and I forgot that I drank it all. So just make sure you leave some and ask your parents or adults, whoever's with you. So what we're gonna do is you're gonna get your bowl and you're gonna pour in your milk. Just like that. Now, here comes the fun part. We're gonna take our food colorings and you're gonna do a couple of drops here and there. Perfect. All right, let's put some green in. And let's do some red. So right now, it kind of looks like a big old mess of just colors. So let's see what's gonna happen. All right, so do you remember in our story how Miss Ada Twist talks about hypotheses and experiments? So a hypothesis is the question we're gonna see if we can find out. What's gonna happen when we take this cotton swab and stick it into the milk? So let's see what happens when I just use a plain cotton swab. Well, nothing happens, just kind of looks kind of gross on my cotton swab. But what happens when I add a little bit of dishwashing soap? You ready? Oh, let's go. Whoa! How cool was that? Did you guys see that? It made a rainbow in a bowl. That is so cool. And that's why science experiments can be so fun. It is such a cool way to see what happens when you mix different things. So have fun, ask your adults, or maybe your big brother, big sister, whoever you have at your house, maybe they can help you look up some more fun experiments online. There's all kinds of really cool things we can do with just the things that we have in our house. So you guys, I hope you've had a great time with our science experiment, but before we go, let's check our schedule. It's time to find our artifact. So if you'll look right here, great job. Our first artifact is this cool beaker over here. So do you remember in the book how Miss Ada was using beakers and all kinds of things to hold those liquids so that she could experiment on them? So this beaker comes from our collection here at the Tennessee State Museum. And our other artifact is this one right here. This is our chemistry kit. So this belonged to a child here in Tennessee, and they would have used this as a fun way to do science experiments at their house. You can still get kits like this today. This one's pretty old. But you can still buy kits like that, and it's a fun way for kids to be able to do science in their home. So you guys, I hope you have a fantastic day, and I can't wait to continue our Black History Month story time next week. And I will see you again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your Friday. Bye, everybody.